Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Gotta Talk from New York to London. I'm your host, Rena. Hope you're all doing great. Neo, how are you today, my friend?
Good. Yourself?
I'm really good, and I'm super excited about today's show because we are stripping this case right back to basics, aren't we? Back to the bare bones, Neo.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want you to forget about all the surrounding stories with David Berkowitz, all the stuff you kind of knew, and just open up to the information that we're going to show you following David Berkowitz and no one else but him, the son of Sam.
We're going right back to the beginning, like even before David was born. All right. So just kind of clear your mind and just go with it. Forget everything you know everything this case was tainted by so many individuals. We want you to, like, in your mind, start from scratch, right?
Correct.
So we're taking it back, right? Betty Broder, David's birth mom, was born to Jewish immigrants in 1919. Betty's parents were Gussie and Moishi Broder. She was one of 9. Her father was a tailor and the family was hard up for money. So Betty started work around grade school. She was doing like random factory office jobs just to bring a little bit of money in to help the family out. She graduates in 1927, meets Tony Falco, marries him in 1935 at Brooklyn City Hall. Tony was a Gentile, so Betty's family completely objected to the marriage. No honeymoon was had. They eventually saved up enough money and purchased Falco's fish store in 1939 at Vanderbilt Avenue and St. Mark's Place in Brooklyn. It was eventually named Falco's Fish Market. Betty got pregnant with Rosalind. Rosalind was born November 14th, 1939. Less than a year later, Tony ran off with the widow of the fish store's previous owner. She had an infant to care for all alone, but somehow Betty, she managed to keep the business going, but then eventually it went bankrupt. She met Joseph Kleinman, David's birth father, 8 months later. He had a wife and 3 kids already. She got pregnant. There was a bit of back and forth. Like, he didn't want the kid. She wanted it. He already had 3 kids. He didn't want any more.
Right. He had his own family. So when she got pregnant, he was telling her to abort the baby. He didn't want anything to do with her having the baby because he had his own family. Correct.
So, yeah. So eventually, on June 1st, 1953, Richard David Falco was born to Joseph Kleinman and Elizabeth Betty Broder Falco at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital. He was given up for adoption to a Jewish couple 4 days later. Falco was the last name of Elizabeth's ex-husband Anthony, who had left her for another woman more than a decade earlier. On June 3rd, 1953, Betty Broder Falco leaves the hospital after giving birth to her son and tells her family that the baby had died.
Right, so she goes home from the hospital and tells her daughter, that's all she needs to tell because there's no one else in her family, that the baby had died. And that was it.
Yep.
She put the baby up for adoption.
Yep. We have here on June 5th, 1953, Betty Broder Falco gives her son Richard David Falco up for adoption to a Jewish couple named the Berkowitzes. On December 20th, 1954, 18 and a half months after being born, Richard David Falco was officially adopted by Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz of 1105 Stratford Avenue, the Bronx, New York. An amended birth certificate was filed in the name of David Richard Berkowitz, which everybody knows him as right now.
There you see his name changed to what we know him as now.
Yep.
And Yeah, that's his adoptive parents, Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz. And at a young age, they told David that he had killed his mother at birth. So that was what the family had told David happened to his parents, why he was living with them, that they had adopted him because his mother had died at birth, giving birth to him, and the father could not take care of him. So he was given up for adoption. That's what they had told him at this point.
Yep. Well, in September of 1957, Berkowitz attended public high school number 77.
That wasn't high school. That was just a...
Sorry, public school.
Right.
Yeah, public school number 77. In September of 1964, Berkowitz attended junior high school number 123. In 1965, Joseph Kleinman dies of cancer. So apparently he didn't have a very nice death. Yeah.
No.
Old Joseph Kleinman.
No.
Which David wasn't particularly bothered by when I've heard him talk about his birth father. On June 4th, 1966, David Berkowitz had a bar mitzvah at Ada in the Bronx.
Yeah, so you see both of his biological parents of Jewish descent. So he is Jewish, David Berkowitz, and he is studying Jewish religion growing up.
In 1967, Nathan Berkowitz owned a hardware store on Melrose Avenue in the Bronx.
Now, I'm not sure what year he opened the hardware store up, but I know in 67, that's what his father was. They owned a hardware store on Melrose Avenue.
On October 5th, 1967, Pearl Berkowitz passed away from breast cancer. And I've said this before, like, David eventually thinks he's the killer of two women by the age of 14.
Yeah, you have his birth mother, which he's guilty for. And now, again, I think there was statements of him wanting his mother to die and stuff that he was saying, and then it happened and he felt guilty about it. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
So I think I think you may be correct there.
Yep.
Right. And he was very close to his adoptive mother.
Extremely close.
Hurt him. He blamed God for that.
Yep.
He felt like God was at fault for taking her away from him.
Yeah, it's like he thought God was listening. I want you dead. I wish you die. And then she dies, and he's like, "Oh my God, God's listening to me."
Yeah, that his adoptive mom dying really hurt him and
really affected him.
Yeah.
In September of 1968, Berkowitz attended Columbus High School. In May of 1969, Nathan and David Berkowitz moved to Co-op City, 170 Dressier Loop, apartment 17B. Just another side story here. I can remember David saying that, them moving to Co-op City was all down to his adoptive mother, Pearl. She was the one that signed them up to move because she wanted a better life for them. And she never got to see this move because she passed away before.
Yeah, those were newer buildings around that time.
Yeah.
And she had put in an application earlier, I think, maybe a year or two earlier. So they were all planning to go there, correct?
Yep. So she never even got to see the move. On June 24th, 1970, Berkowitz began as an auxiliary policeman at the 45th Precinct in the Bronx.
Yeah, see, he was a buff. Before this, he tried being fire auxiliary. And I've gotten stories of him not being accepted in that field. So here you see him taking his addiction, his buff, to be a police auxiliary. And that is true. He was doing that in 1970.
In 1971, Nathan Berkowitz remarried a woman named Julia. And we know Julia had a daughter, didn't she?
Right. And this was a complication for Berkowitz. He didn't like Julia. Again, this is a woman coming in his life, taking away the closest person he has left, which is his father. So I don't think he liked his father marrying this lady. And that bothered him a lot. As far as, later on we see him not liking women. This was a factor that led to that, I feel.
Yeah, I think David saw himself in competition with Julia's daughter too, because apparently she was smart, beautiful, and successful, and I think he felt like he had competition.
Yeah, and he loved his adoptive mother so much too.
Mm-hmm.
Replacing that, and just he didn't like her.
It must have been weird seeing his, adoptive father remarrying.
Right. Well,
and
you see here, yeah. I don't think he wanted anyone filling his adoptive mother's place, too.
No. And if I remember rightly, it wasn't. He quickly, remarried after Pearl died, and I think that bothered David.
4 years later, I think it was, right?
Yep. Yeah.
4 years later.
So in June of 19...
And don't forget, hold on one second. Don't forget, she's living with him now.
Yes.
Julia comes in and she's living in Culpshire with him. And, you see right after that coming up in 1971, when he graduates from Columbus High School, he goes straight into the Army. And I think that her living there with them factored into him just leaving so quickly. I think it was 2-3 weeks after he graduated. I know he wanted to go in the Army, but he definitely didn't want to live there with Julia. So I definitely think, again, resentment towards his decision to go in the Army, as we later see. I think he put blame on that towards Julia a little too. She came into the picture and he didn't want to be in the picture because of her. So you see right after he graduates there, then he goes in on June 23rd, right after a couple of weeks after graduating high school, he enlists into the United States Army, takes basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and he signs up. I went to a meeting with these detectives that Robert Berkowitz, and that's where I kind of got the feel that he enlisted into the Army to fight for the war. And they all said he changed when he came back. So I knew to look into that. So that's really when I started looking into the Army and everything that happened. And you see during the Army, he has a girlfriend, Iris, that has to be the closest person to him. He sends her the most letters. And you see through those letters his transformation on what he was going through at the Army. In the beginning, basic training, it's all good. But then in December, I think it's December 15th, 1971, Berkowitz got stationed in Korea. And that's when everything started to change. He was influenced by drugs and alcohol and prostitutes. And I don't think he went in the Army for that. He went in there to fight for his country. The Vietnam War was winding down. They stationed him in a place where troops weren't really doing anything. And everything he was doing was bad. And I don't think he liked that. So he starts to resent the Army. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be in Korea. He doesn't like what he's doing there. And I just want to read a letter that he wrote on March 1st. This is a couple months after being stationed in Korea. He wrote this to Iris. My court-martial is coming up in a few weeks. I have a good chance of winning according to the facts and review. There's a good chance that I'll be fined $50. If I win, I can tell them to get fucked and I'll be transferred to another job which does not involve handling guns and ammunition. So you see here, he doesn't want to carry a gun here in the Army. He doesn't want anything to do with the war. He's trying to go home. He doesn't like what he's a part of. The reason I got court-martial was because I failed to obey a direct order from my company commander, the CO. They noticed that I didn't have any weapons. When he asked me where my weapons were, I told him very politely I didn't bring them. I went into telling him how I felt about carrying and using weapons. I said, sir, I politely refused to carry them because of my moral beliefs. Well, he got kind of pissed off. He is a true lifer who dedicated his mind and body to the Army. So it's obvious I cannot talk to him about the peace movement. The only thing I'm worried about is my jurors. They're all lifers. They only think Army and kill the enemy. I'll beat these lifers, keep straight. I guess you get a chance to see all my friends and say hello. They probably won't remember me. If you see Ed, call him a war pig and a righteous militant. If he hits you, let me know. Then I'll take care of him myself. I can't wait till tomorrow. It's payday. I'll have to go and get some heavy acid and morphine so I can last out the month. Wish me luck. Love, Dave. So you see, he went in there to fight for the war, and now he doesn't want to be there. And he's giving him a hard time about carrying a gun. So he won't carry a gun anymore, and they end up court-martialing him. So he refuses to carry a gun for his moral beliefs. Okay, so he ends up being a problem to them in a sense for the other troops that are there. They're there to fight. I'm sure they didn't like his stance. And, the higher-ups are not liking him because he's not cooperating. So he's trying to get out of there. He does not like the war. And
well, yeah, we can see here on the on March 9th, 1972, Berkowitz was caught stealing food from the mess hall on the way back to the army barracks. So it kind of looks like he was being naughty, wasn't he?
Well, he was just being mischievous, I think. There was a story of him lighting a barracks on fire.
Yeah.
Into that, I'm not too sure, but that's a way of getting transferred back home. I think as it started becoming a repetitious way of getting back home, they stopped letting people go back home over it. But I did hear of that going on then. Right, so he gives him a hard time. He doesn't want to be there. They finally give up. I guess he won the court martial or whatever happened. I'm not too sure, but they just gave up and they gave him a clerk's job in Kentucky. Right, on January 4th in 1973, Berkowitz gets stationed in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And they gave him a clerk's job so he wouldn't have to carry a weapon.
It's funny, because he ended up babysitting for one of the clerks.
Yeah, there's a story of that, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine finding out your kids were babysat by the son of Sam. That would be a weird sensation, wouldn't it?
Right.
Well, on May 6th, 1973, Berkowitz was baptized at the Beth Haven Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Right.
And when I got to this is what blew my mind. Because, you're looking at a serial killer, and now you're seeing him here get baptized. Remember, he was of Jewish descent. And I couldn't believe it. I started looking into everybody at that church and all the Army people I get a hold of, and I ran into a guy named Pastor Wallace. And he started to give me a totally different perspective of Berkowitz at that time. He told me that Berkowitz had come to the Beth Haven Baptist Church and wanted to be Christian, and he liked them a lot. Again, at this Baptist church too, this is where Berkowitz learns about demons. Okay, the church teaches you about Christ, but it also teaches you how to stay away from demons. And again, you see in the story the coincidences that happened to Berkowitz. He really thinks from what he learned here, he's being attacked by demons, and only can be attacked by demons if God allows it. That's where his resentment towards God comes. He really feels like God is allowing all this to happen. He's supposed to be protecting him from all those bad things that go on later on, when we'll show you that were coincidences that were unbelievable, that Berkowitz really thought, these demons he's learning now were real. Like he was really being attacked by bad stuff. And his resentment towards God became a war between him and God later on, as you see. And this church is what really molded him in that way. I don't think if he doesn't run into this church, I don't think he has that way of thinking. He does believe that God controls everything. So him being attacked is because of God. Later on, I'll show you all that through his letters with the psychiatrist. And I just want to read a few passages also about some people in the Army that knew Berkowitz, to give you a description of what I was running into when I ran into Pastor Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
In the Army, while stationed in Korea, Berkowitz was sending letters home to his friends that suggested his conservative views were turning more liberal. One Army buddy, a friend of Berkowitz from the Bronx, said the letters bragged about using stimulants, depressant pills, and on occasion LSD. Berkowitz was changing while in the Army, and I wanted to know why. So you see, this is where I really just started diving into everything that happened in the Army, because I really feel this is where he changed. This is where the .44 caliber killer started to form. His resentment towards the government is just another abandonment for him, which he feels when he gets out of the Army. David Berkowitz converted from Judaism to Christianity while stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. He was baptized at the Best Haven Baptist Church in southern Louisville. He made a profession of faith in Jesus Christ here, said the pastor, Tom Wallace. I baptized the fellow. I noted he was a Jewish boy who had found Christ. He was lost in the world. Records show Berkowitz was baptized on May 6, 1973, and was among 2,200 people who were baptized at Beth Haven Church that year. Those who remember Berkowitz from his church-going days in Louisville said he was an exemplary Christian. It was almost impossible for them to believe he was being accused of killing 6 people and terrifying New York City for over a year. Pastor Wallace recalled Berkowitz experimented with hard drugs while stationed in Korea, just prior to coming to Fort Knox. He stated, my initial impression of him was that I never met anyone more sincere or non-honest. Everybody was relaxed about him. The man who invited Berkowitz to Beth Haven Church, fellow Fort Knox soldier Jim Allman, said Berkowitz accepted Christ on his first visit in the Louisville church. Allman stated, I just asked him to go to church with me one day. Berkowitz said to me, but I am a Jew. I told him I didn't care what he was. Did he want to go to church? He went and he really enjoyed it. He went forward at the invitation, and after the service, he came up to me grinning and laughing, saying, man, I'm saved. Then Berkowitz came back that next day for the evening service, and he went forward again at the invitation. He told me afterwards that he just wanted to make sure it took. Jim Allman, who called himself probably the last friend David had, said Berkowitz led an energetic Christian life at Fort Knox for about a year. He began backsliding shortly before his discharge from the Army in June in 1974. I think his parents got to him. They practically disowned him when they found out he had become a Christian. He started hanging around with guys who drank and smoked pot and had dirty pictures on their walls. Maybe he worried about going home and being lonely. Beth Haven Church members who were friends with Berkowitz portrayed him as a pleasant and effusive type whose appetite for spiritual food could not be satisfied. He routinely attended Sunday worship services, Wednesday evening prayer meetings, and Thursday evening soul winner classes at the church. He also would go out witnessing his faith door to door. He wasn't at all like they say he is, said Sue Winfrey, who was a member at Beth Haven who frequently sat with Berkowitz during worship service. David was a really nice guy, friendly to talk to. He talked a lot, sang songs, and played the guitar. He seemed to be real strong in his faith. Terry Lucci, another Beth Haven member, served as a stewardess on one of the church's buses that transported soldiers from Fort Knox to Beth Haven Church. She said Berkowitz was always there when the bus came around. He was really a fantastic guy with a great personality. On the bus, he would tell Bible stories to the kids. We talked all the time, mostly about church activities and spiritual things. He was in the Army, and my dad was in the Army. My parents really thought a lot of him. She recalled Berkowitz would study the Bible with vigor. Rosie Lucci, Terry's mother, described Berkowitz as a great soul winner. I never heard him say an unkind word. He brought a lot of GIs in from base. It breaks my heart to see what has happened. She goes on to say, I still don't believe it was him, but if it was, I'm just thankful he was saved. The Bible says, once saved, always saved. Davy Zamet was stationed at Fort Knox and remembered Berkowitz as always having a clean-cut appearance. His uniform was always pressed. His shoes were always shined. Everything around him was always in order. Zamet stated, he was telling the guys they shouldn't be drinking and swearing and running around with women. But as an individual, I didn't think he was bad. He was a little off sometimes, but so were a few other guys who seemed just as strange. An Army buddy from Fort Knox, Paul Billow, said Berkowitz used to brag about using pills. Billow stated, when I met Berkowitz, he seemed to have been completely recovered from all he went through in Korea. He seemed to change drastically in other ways, from gregarious to reclusive, and towards a revolutionist form of the Baptist religion. Berkowitz was baptized, went to revival meetings, and according to Billow, tried to convert others. He told me that if I did not have Jesus Christ as my personal savior, I would be damned. 2 months before leaving Fort Knox, Billow said Berkowitz started to swear. Billow suggested maybe he went back to drugs because somebody doesn't change like that overnight. Terry Peterson, who was stationed in Korea with Berkowitz, said he would be willing to testify as a defense witness if Berkowitz went to trial because the Army may have screwed him up. When he was over in Korea, he wasn't a killer. Being over there and his relationship with the military may be what caused him to become a killer now. So you see, you have a whole different Berkowitz than what
Mm-hmm.
you're told there. And it was crazy really running into this at first.
Yeah.
Because you're not showed this or told this when you're told about David Berkowitz.
No, it kind of humanizes him, doesn't it?
In a way, he's just supposed to be bad and crazy, but you're seeing
Yeah.
somebody here trying to do good. You see him
Yes.
trying to become a Christian. He didn't even want to carry a gun. He didn't like the war at this point.
It's funny, he learns how to use a gun in the army. He ends up refusing to carry a gun in the army, gets in trouble for that, eventually comes out of the army, and the rest is history, obviously.
Right.
But you can see he's trying to do right. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to find God. He's trying to find religion. And that's how every prisoner turns to God when they're in jail. What else have they got to do?
Well, again, I want to point out it's hard. Religion is hard. Following Christ is hard. It's not easy. And he gained resentment off it. You can, because you're hard on yourself about doing the right thing. And it's just not easy. And he couldn't grasp it. Remember, he's of Jewish descent. But he could not handle what he was going through, and he ends up blaming God. That's how I feel really happens down the line here.
And also, you remember, he learned a lot about, demons in Kentucky, didn't he?
Yeah. I went over it a minute ago. That's where he's able to have that mindset.
Yeah.
Because there's such coincidences that go on with him. That he can't believe that go on, that he's only thinking, God's allowing this. So he eventually starts to go to war with God.
Yeah, he's literally at war with God.
Right.
He never saw actual battle in Korea, but he starts his own battle with God, doesn't he? His own personal battle.
Right. That's how he gets back at God, targeting women who, again, you see now he's adopted. A woman threw him away. Okay. He's blaming God for his adoptive mother getting taken away from him. And now there's another woman now taking his role with his father here.
Well, on June 24th, 1974, Berkowitz was honorably discharged from the army at the rank of specialist 4th grade. So he's out.
3 years. He does 3 years and he's done. Comes back home to the Bronx.
On August 29th, 1974, Berkowitz started working for IBI handling guard dogs.
This is his night shift job, right? The IBI security job that he has.
So this is the first job he has out of the army, right?
Right.
In November of 1974, Berkowitz moved into studio apartment 5E at 2161 Barnes Avenue in the Bronx.
Yeah, stop there. I just want to see here. He's getting out again. He doesn't want to live with Julia and his father. So he moves out, comes home to the Bronx, moves out a few months later, moves to Barnes Avenue.
During that time, an 83-year-old woman who lived under Berkowitz received threatening letters regarding her noisy TV set.
Right.
So already noise is starting to bother him, isn't it?
Right. First time you see this happening, he's complaining. He ends up sending her a letter. Pretty sure she stops him in the hallway and he doesn't know what to say. But he sends her a letter telling her to turn her television down. She lives underneath him.
In 1975, Berkowitz worked for IBI Security Company on 161st Street, Jamaica, Queens. Berkowitz was assigned to guard the Universal Car Loading Company at 351 10th Avenue in Manhattan.
Right. So you see the 161st Street is like the union of his security company, and he's stationed. He's working at 10th Avenue in Manhattan.
So also we see around this time, Neo, don't we, where he goes looking for his birth father.
Right. He goes to an adoption center around now, looking for his birth father, and realizes that his mother might still be alive. So he goes to his father after that, and his father then tells him the truth, that he didn't kill his mother at birth, and he gives him some information so he can help find her. And this is where Berkowitz then starts to look for his real mother.
Yep. So in January of 1975, Berkowitz's father, Nathan, was robbed in his hardware store.
Right. And because of that, I think that's what led to him leaving New York. A lot of people think that his father abandoned him. I think that David felt abandoned, but I don't think his father abandoned him. His father didn't want to live there. His father, I'm pretty sure, offered him to come to Florida with him. But the robbery, I think, is what did it for him in New York, and he wanted to get out. So in January of 75, Nathan leaves New York. In February of 75, he's in Florida with Julia, leaving Berkowitz in New York.
On March 24th, 1975, a relative to Joaquim Neto witnessed a homicide and was able to identify the suspect to police. Joaquim Neto, out of fear that his family may be retaliated against, moved his family's listing from the phone book.
Right. And I'm showing you that now. I want you to keep that in your pocket because it's important for this story later on. I don't really want to discuss it right now. Just remember that one. Keep it in your pocket. It comes up very important later.
Mm-hmm. On May 12th, 1975, Berkowitz left a Mother's Day card with his phone number in Betty Broder Falco's mailbox. And I'll just read you quickly what it said inside. So, as once before, we've been destined to meet once more. And I guess the time is now I should say hello. But how? Happy Mother's Day. You are my mother in a very special way. Love, RF, which obviously means Richard Falco, doesn't it?
Right. He finds his mother on May 12th, 1975. He leaves a Mother's Day card with his phone number on there. And May 17th, 5 days later, his mother and him meet for the first time. And he meets Betty, his biological mother, who he thought he killed his whole life, is now right in front of him. And the relationship with her, I don't think panned out well for David Berkowitz. He sees his mother dating men. He doesn't think well of her. He ends up not liking her. And this is near the end of 1975, around, I would say, September, October, after he's getting to know her for a little bit. So that again, now, this is the woman that threw him away, and he's disappointed when he does meet her. He's thinking she should be, very apologetic, which I think she was, but she didn't, her actions didn't show it to him. So he ends up, I think, not liking meeting his real mother. And during this time also, if you remember Iris, his girlfriend from the Army, he catches his girlfriend fooling around with someone. It's not really his girlfriend as you really look at this. I think he more thinks he's boyfriend, girlfriend with her than she does, because then she ends up getting married that end of 1975. So you see here again, women playing a part, bothering his life. It's not good things. So yeah, that all happens at the end of 1975. He gets to know his mother. He doesn't like it. Iris gets married. And I think that really bothered him also, because then you see in 1975, November, Berkowitz applies to the New York State Firearms Board for a permit to possess a rifle shotgun.
Yeah, a mere 6 months after meeting Betty Falco, David is applying for a firearms license.
You see, he's being abandoned by his government. His father leaves him. Iris is not in his life. He finds his real mother. She doesn't really want to be in his life, I would say, from her actions. The relationship did not go well. All this happening right there is pulling him down. He's not doing good.
He had high hopes for Betty, and she was a major disappointment.
Right.
He said she had bad makeup, she dressed poorly, she was like a man eater. He was everything. She was everything he didn't want in a mother, basically.
And remember this year in the beginning, he's finding out the truth that he didn't kill his mother. You know, his whole life, he has that guilt. And now he finds out that it was a lie, meets his real mom, and he's disappointed. It's worse than it was, seeing the way she is.
On December 8th, 1975, Berkowitz wrote a letter to his father telling him to enjoy his life and to take care of his family.
Right. I kind of want to stop it there. You know, we can go over that letter, possibly open it up next time, because I just want you to focus on that part right there and what he went through as far as abandonment and his life, where it was at that point. Because this letter then is sort of like a I'm giving up letter in a sense. And then you see everything start to take off. So I wouldn't mind stopping right there if you want.
Yeah, it's like different stages of David's life, isn't it?
I just want to show him to you what he was going through. And it wasn't all just about a crazy guy that a dog was talking to.
Yes, you can see everything before the crimes, what led up, and you can see it in perfect order, can't you? A timeline of events.
Right.
You know, this
I'm not
didn't
trying
just
to give
happen,
him
did
excuses. You know, this isn't about giving him excuses at all. This is about giving this whole thing reason.
I mean, you can literally see in real time, like through this timeline, what is leading up to that. I mean, he didn't just start doing this. There was obviously there's no excuse for killing people, Nia. I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying is
there's a lot of reasons and things that went on that I want to show you.
Yeah.
And it'll all make more sense.
And we've got a whole lot more to go over.
Right. This is a whole bunch of files compiled.
We're laying the foundations, aren't we?
There's a lot in here that people haven't seen or even computed, retained for that matter.
Yep.
You know, really intook. So,
everything will become clear.
Right.
Right. So we'll leave it there and we will continue in episode 2 of the life and times of David Berkowitz.
Adios.
All right. Till next time, my friend.